So I know we're all eagerly anticipating going through the POE tonight. Please, as I'm going through content, just make sure you ask me any questions you might have. I will answer them as I finish saying things. I will go have a look and I will get to your questions. No question is too small or too big. Hey, evening. So please, ask. I don't want any uncertainty when it comes to the POE, because I know it isn't your typical POE. So I know some parts are throwing people. Right. So just a reminder. Yeah, Roxanne, go first.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm actually just a bit confused on the type of story that I'm doing. I think that this would be considered a hard news piece. It's actually with regards to violence within high schools. There was an incident that was shared on social media. I'm not sure if people have seen it. It was actually at my daughter's school with a teacher and students actually having a physical altercation. And so I don't know if this would be considered a hard news piece.
It can actually fall under both. If you want to just cover that event and what happened exactly in that event, that would be a short, hard news piece. If you want to talk about schools in general and want to go into a deeper story where you discuss, school violence and the rise of it and the ramifications and so on, then it would be a feature. So it would just depend on what angle you choose to take.
Yeah, because I was actually thinking of going more into detail about this particular incident, because what I've actually decided to do is interview a student, which is my daughter, because she was present when this was happening, as well as the chief director of curriculum with the GDE. So I do have an interview with that, because there was also a parents meeting where the district director and the district circuit manager actually addressed this whole incident at the parents meeting. So I want to go into detail with this specific incident at the school.
Then I would do it as a feature. I think if you've got those kinds of sources, you should be able to turn that into quite an in-depth story. If you feel like you're not going to hit the word count and you don't have the reach that you intended, then you can change it over to a hard news piece. But I do think from what it sounds like, you could make a feature of it. It would be a news feature. Yeah.
Okay. No, so then would then the 2 interviews be sufficient with regards to the student as well as the chief director of the Department of Education?
Yeah, definitely. Those are great.
Okay. Now then that my stress level is down now.
Good. Okay, well, that's the whole point of tonight, is to get everyone's stress levels down, because everyone is stressing. So that's awesome. Good. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, pleasure. All right. Guys, please remember there's not going to be referencing in every question. I will speak to which questions have referencing in. Some there's slightly grey areas, but most importantly, your journalistic piece that you write. So question 2 or 3, whichever one you choose, no in-text referencing. Okay, this is not an academic piece. It is a journalistic story. No in-text referencing. So I just want to stipulate that. Okay. So remember, the whole point of this POE is to go from background to the background stuff, writing the story, and then there's the piece on the short academic thing on the fake news. Okay. So remember, you are choosing hard news for newspaper or broadcast or online, or a news feature. Okay. So the idea here is you've got to choose if you're going for a short piece, a script, or a longer piece. That is where you are choosing, and the decision of what kind of stories you're going to write, or you're going to write, obviously then determines the information you find for question 1.1 and 1.2. Remember, I'm obviously following the brief when it comes to marking and everything, but I will, if you, please don't feel that you will get marked down because others have subheadings and you don't, or that, you put the person's name and then your name for question and answer instead of question answer. That kind of thing is not going to make you lose marks. Okay, what's going to make you lose marks is your depth, your explanation to things. It's about showing me your understanding. So if yours is set out a little bit differently to someone else, that's fine. It's not the end of the world. Okay, journalism is not cut and dry. Okay, obviously there are certain aspects of this that are, certain things need to be present, but if yours is presented slightly differently to someone else, that is fine. Do not panic, because obviously with us having the WhatsApp groups, one person will say, well, I did this, and someone else will say, but I did that, and then people get like really nervous, they've done the wrong thing. Please don't. Okay, I will, if there is something you say that it's completely off track, I will help you find a way to fix it in the quickest and easiest way possible. I will make allowances where it is needed. Please know that I'm here to support you over this next 2-week period. So please don't panic. Okay. More than anything, don't panic, because all that panicking does is freak you out, and the work then doesn't get done because you're panicking more than getting the time to get the work done. All right. So remember, question 1.1, you are assigned a senior journalist who is acting as a mentor, who will take you through the process of writing and being a journalist step by step. So you are writing this as if you are explaining to your mentor, that mentor in this instance being me. Okay, you are explaining your process, your steps, your thoughts, the way you're going forward before doing your written piece. So in traditional media environments, you have your editorial meetings where you sit and you brainstorm and you come up with all the stuff. This is like replicating that. So instead of going into a big editorial meeting, you are presenting your ideas to this more senior journalist. Okay, so you're writing it as if you are telling what would be done, not what has been done, what will be done. Okay, that's obviously just important with tenses. No, you don't have to explain, Jan, why you chose the topic. You're just explaining what the topic is. So let's go through each of the stages, but you're not having to explain. You don't need to give me your reason to why you chose that. Okay. So you're going to write a paragraph. Like I said, you can use these bullet points, or you can write it as a full paragraph. All I ask is if you do bullet points. The only thing that irks me with bullet points is that people then tend to not write in full sentences. So even though you are writing in bullet points, you are still writing in full sentences. So for example, the first thing you have to do is you choose a genre and you choose a topic for your news story. So you would say, for this story, the genre which I have chosen is X, Y, Z, or the genre for this piece that has been chosen is this, full stop. The topic that will fall into the genre, and then you explain what you want your news story to be. Write in full sentences. Don't just write, like, let's say your genre is entertainment. Don't just write the word entertainment and, go, okay, she'll give me the 1 mark for that. Give me something to sink my teeth into, just a little bit, so I can know what's going on. So the first one, you give me your genre, and you give me your topic for your news story. So it's not your straight headline yet. It's the topic. It's what you're going to be focusing on. Basically, what you're giving is your story angle. Remember what I've said to you guys before? There are 50 to 100 different ways to write a story. You always have to choose one angle. That is what the topic of your story will be. Okay. Does that first point make sense to everyone? All right. Karen, I will come back to you in a minute. Let me just get through 1.1. All right. All right, so once you've chosen your genre and your topic, you list any two various sources for your news story. Okay. So remember, this is where there was a bit of discrepancy on the group. What I said here is that the sources that you're using are your websites that you're using to source information. I did say you could use one of your interviews as a source. So you're telling me an online source that you are gathering information from, and you can list your interview, or you can just list two online sources. In this point, you will give me the full reference like it would be in your reference list. You will copy and paste those and put them into your reference list at the end as well. So these will be duplicated. SafeAssign will probably pick it up. Please don't panic. I will see that it is picking up the duplication. Okay. I will never ever penalize someone with SafeAssign when if it is their own work or it's duplication of content, because that is not the point of SafeAssign. All right. You're not copying, it's your own work that you are producing. So the idea here is you are listing these sources for your news story. Okay. Then it says distinguish which source will be primary and which will be secondary. So what I said to you guys, all right, Roxanne, I'll come to you now. So what I said to you guys is which is your primary source, so which is the one you're going to be relying on most, and then which is your secondary source, which is the one which is the supporting source of information. So you are distinguishing which one is the most important and which one is supporting. What this does, it shows me your perspective of which information you think is more important than the other. Because what I'll be doing is opening up your sources, looking at them, and I'll go, yes, that is the better one, that is the least important one. And then I will see if that lines up. Okay, would I use the WhatsApp video for this part? Or should I look for other source? So Roxanne, it wouldn't be that it's a WhatsApp video, it is an interview. It just so happened to be on WhatsApp video, but you would then reference a video interview with, and then if you look in the VC guide, there is the referencing on how to reference an interview. So because it's the fact that it's on WhatsApp videos here or not neither here nor there, it is a source that you've got. Okay, does that make sense? Can both interviews be your primary source, or must we choose one? You need to choose one, being the one that you're going to use just a bit more than the other. If they are much of a muchness, just put one as the one and the other one as the other. How do you research and verify the individual you interviewed if you know them personally? So if you are verifying them, so let's say, for example, it's someone that you know, you should then obviously know where they work, what their background is, where they studied, what gives them some validation to give insight into the story. So if you're doing something on elections and it's just I say just the average person voting, that's absolutely fine. You can just say that this is a person who lives at this address, you verified that they live at this address, work here, that kind of thing. Okay, so the idea is that you just give backup to why that person was chosen over someone else. In terms of verifying online sources, what you would say is that additional research was done on and you can then list the following websites, and these websites had similar information supporting what my primary source has said, therefore verifying the facts. Okay, so then it's about showing me the additional research you did to support those original pieces. Okay. Nicholas, can the secondary source be a combination? No. So it's got to just be one it needs to be one website. You can still pull in the other sources. Just because they're getting you to list two sources for the news story does not mean that you only can use those two for your piece. You guys can use as many sources as you want for your piece, but for the sake of the academic side of things in this, we want to see at least two used, if that makes sense. So 2 is the minimum, but you can incorporate as many as you want. So I would use the interview.
Hi, sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry, maybe I didn't understand. So I have a very, very powerful primary source, which happen to be two individuals who I've interviewed. The secondary source.
Okay.
That's my question.
Mm-hmm.
I have three secondary sources. They are a collection. And the question I have is in the question, 1.2, do I only state the most important of the secondary sources or all three?
Just state one,
okay.
But you can then obviously still pull them in and they'll be stated in the reference list.
Right. Got it.
I will still see them later on.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. So, Roxanne, so I would use the interview from the director and the WhatsApp video of the incident as sources. Okay, so what you would do is you would get, what I would do is get a website that spoke to the issue as maybe your secondary, and then the interview from the director as your primary source, or vice versa, depending on the information. I would say your interview would be the primary source, and then you wouldn't use both your interviews that you did as your sources. You can use one of your interviews, and then you've got to use one online source. So you would use something from a website, so a news outlet that reported on the event, if that makes sense. So you're showing an outside source, not only what you've researched personally from your own interviews, but also what you have researched online as well. Okay. Taylor, I'm interviewing students and I did phone to make sure they were in school, but wanted to get documents that prove they there because the school stated was against policy. Is that a problem? And I did want to make sure they were in the school. What do you mean you weren't allowed, as in you weren't allowed to have proof that they were at the school, Taylor? So are you talking about the verification part? Okay, can you say that, could you get verification from their parents? Because I'm assuming to speak to them, you would have had to get approval from their parents to speak to them. So you could verify that through the parents. There must be some way to verify that they exist as human beings. Message me privately and let's see what we can do about that to make it work. Okay. Because otherwise, yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, if you've got the documents with the school seal and their names and all that, then that's absolutely perfect. As long as there's just some proof. Guys, the reason behind all this proof stuff is we have people that have faked their portfolios before. So we need to see that the stuff you're doing is legit and is not AI doing it for you. So, yeah. It's just easier than people faking it along the way. All right. So let's get to question 1.2. All right. So one of the interview is one source in the secondary. Okay, let's break down. Okay, so no. Sesmita, that's, 1.1 for the interview is one source and the secondary source. Yes, is an outside source, so a website, a news site, something like that. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Would a business card, company website, or CP be? Yeah, Chantal, that's absolutely fine. Is it okay instead of using person, real name, for example, say Ms. K, due to people wanting to remain anonymous? Yeah, so what you would do is you would give them a name, you put a star next to it, and then you would need to put at the end of the piece name changed for anonymity. So you'd need to state that the name has been changed. Okay. Yeah, in the article itself. But tell them it's literally just me reading it. understand why some people want to remain in the interviews. You can say question answer, or you can also just use the pseudonym that you use for the person. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's fine. I'm absolutely fine with that if you, as long as there's a pseudonym given, not an anonymous source says. A pseudonym is a completely different thing. Okay. All right, so let's look at 1.2, guys, because this is obviously what you're talking about. So you're going to explain the different type of interviews that you choose for the story. So did you do face-to-face? Did you do video call? And did you do email? You're going to explain the different types of interviews you personally chose. All right, so 2 interviews, 2 marks per interview. You will then discuss how the interviews were conducted in various contexts. So you'll explain how the face-to-face ones were done, you'll explain the video calls, you'll explain the emails. You're just discussing the actual interview process and how it was conducted. This you don't understand. Okay, so the idea is the first step of it, explain the different types of interviews you chose for the story. So did you choose to do face-to-face? Did you choose to do email? Did you choose to do a video call? So you are telling me what types of interviews you did. Okay, so how the interviews were conducted. So remember, under face-to-face, you can have a video call, you can have Zoom, you can have, sit down. So how were they conducted? In person, online? Were they set up at the person's place of work? Was it done, so tell me the context of your interview. So Taylor, you can bring in the tunnel funnel and all that. It doesn't, but it's actually, the wording is not stipulating if that specific aspect. So you can bring that in if you did the interview using all that, but if you are speaking about it in terms of if where the interview took place, the context, all of that, it would give you the same marks. Discuss how the interviews were. Yeah, you can explain how you did a mix of open and close-ended. Guys, it is, the sentence in particular, it has actually been left quite up for interpretation, and it's quite open. So as long as I can see you explaining some of the, what you went through in terms of doing the interview, whether it be tunnel funnel, open questions, the environment where the interview took place, if it was done online because of the person not living in the same environment as you, whatever it may be, as long as I can see that you are explaining and understanding that interviews are held in different contexts, you will get your marks. Okay, so what they mean by context, when you're talking about an interview and you're looking at the different contexts, it means how the interview was done. So what was the context of the interview? Was it done in person? Was it done on Zoom? Was it done on WhatsApp call? Was the person at their work? Were they at home? What was the context of the interview? Why? What was the environment like? All that stuff. The idea is you setting the scene for me to see what kind of interview you did, and how, if you took into consideration, remember when I talked about the etiquette, the making sure you're writing things down, speaking clearly, doing all that stuff, it's making me see if you understand the principles of what it means to conduct a good interview. So because of wording selection, that's why I say if you bring in tunnel, funnel, trumpet, if you bring in the fact that you used open and close, the mix of open and close-ended questions, whether you spoke about how you had a few, chatted for a few minutes first to get the person to relax, So setting the scene before interviewing them and them, speaking about their experience, whatever it may be. You tell me or that context. So what actually happened in your interview? What was it like? Does that give you guys a little bit more understanding? Okay. So, all right. So that's what I say. Because of the word selection, it leaves it open to interpretation. So I will mark it with it being open to interpretation. So what's important next is that you've got to provide evidence to show that you conducted the interviews. Those are your transcripts. Okay. Remember, I said to you, if you do, you can put your transcript into 1.1 if you use it for your source in terms of your research and your verification, you can put it there, but then also just make sure it is in question 1.2. Okay. And guys, it has to be a transcript. It can't be the audio file because of SafeAssign. That is the problem. That is why you are having to do transcripts. Okay. Any questions with 1.1 or 1.2 before we move on to question 2? You feeling a bit better about it? I hope you are. Oh, thank goodness. Okay. I almost wanted to like sneaky an extra session last week, and I was like, no, you've got all your other things due. So I'm so glad we did tonight. I did get cut off of me, so just checking if you got it. Oh, no, I'm getting to your question now because yours is about the written piece, about the feature. So I am getting to it. I did skim over it to see what you wrote, so I'm going to get to it now. Okay. So I haven't forgotten, promise. All right. It's the whole question on 1. Okay, so I've just gone over the context in quite a bit of detail. So just go back and listen to the recording, and I broke down the whole thing on the context. All right. Just because I'm just being conscious of time, so I went over it quite a few times. All right. All right, so let's have a look. So guys, I'm not going to break down question 1 and 2 individually. I'm going to speak to your written pieces because obviously the same principles apply in terms of, you're writing a journalistic piece. You get to choose how you do it. So the first one, if you choose question 2, you obviously are doing a hard news story, either for print, broadcast, or online. Okay. Remember, with your hard news story, it's obviously shorter. It is focusing on the 5 W's and H. It is very factual. Any significant information gets represented with your direct quotes. There's not a lot of emotion. It is about getting that information out as quickly as possible and using that inverted pyramid format. Most important information to least important information. Remember to go look through the notes in terms of your leads, whether you do, your delayed identification lead or if you do an anecdotal lead, whatever you want it to be. But just make sure that the most important information is presented at the start. So it grabs the audience, but also then for those who don't have a lot of time, to read the piece can read the first few paragraphs and get to know what the piece is about without having to spend the time reading the whole piece. So I should be able to get the gist within the first few paragraphs, but then should choose to read on and find out more of what you are telling me, because I should want to know more, not have to know more because I'm marking you. All right. Please, again, remember, no in-text referencing because it is a journalistic piece of writing. If you are needing to reference, like that someone had an interview with another publication or whatever, you would just say, in an interview with the Daily Sun, Sam Smith said that is, you are referencing the other or speaking to the other publication. You are not in text referencing them. So you're mentioning them so that you're giving them the credit for the interview, but letting me know that you are using their source. All right. If you're talking about like ministers and officials and people of importance or whatever, I know that you have not necessarily spoken to these people directly. I know you will be using the quotes as if they are your own. That is absolutely fine. If it picks it up as similarity or issues within the piece in terms of safe assign, again, I know the context. I understand what you guys are meant to be doing. You will not be penalized for that. Okay. It is not plagiarism or copying in this instance because it is a journalistic practical assignment. Okay. But every single source you use in your story has to be in that reference list. So even if it's named in 1.1, and all those extras as well, everything needs to go into the reference list at the end. Okay. So for some of you, there'll be the 2 and 1.1, but you might have 4 or 5 in the reference list. That's great. That's wonderful. You will not be penalized or anything like that. It just needs to be present. Okay. The difference between question 1 and question 3 is that question 1 is the hard news piece, straightforward, using that inverted pyramid approach, or if you want the hourglass or the champagne glass. Question 3 is the feature, the newspaper feature. So Carrie Ann, this is what you were asking about. So I'm just going back up to your question. So you're writing the news feature, and I've classified it as a human interest feature. Perfect. But I'm a bit concerned that I'm not understanding the meaning of human interest story correctly. So I just wanted to ask, can human interest stories also be about a topic which concerns humans, or does it only encompass stories which are about a specific person? No. So human interest stories are stories that tug on our heartstrings, that make us emotional. It's not about one particular person. It can be about an event. It can be about things that are happening within the world. But the whole point of human interest is that it gets us to feel something, whether that be happiness, sadness, anger, frustration, helplessness, whatever it may be. A human interest piece, which is when we're dealing with features, we want that human interest element. It's about us feeling something. Okay. Yeah. So you just need to appeal to the emotion. What you guys need to think about for those who are doing a feature, a lot more direct quotes, more descriptive information, but not English description, but more like, creating mental images that people are able to picture things. So where your hard news is straight fact, just, get the information out as quickly as possible. People don't have the time to read screeds and screeds of information. Your feature is about the quotes, the detail, the depth, the description. It's about making me feel something at the end of the piece. Doesn't matter what it is. Hopefully not frustration because of poor writing, but if it's frustration because I can understand why the people in the piece are getting upset, that's good. Okay. Frustration for those involved, great. Frustration because I want to throttle you because you've written junk, not so good. I've asked this before in the group. Just want to show medical. Yeah, medical is 100% a genre. Definitely. If we're using News 24 as one of the sources, we can say according to News 24. Yeah. Or News 24 states. Or in an interview with News 24 journalist and you give their names, whatever. But that's, yeah. As long as there's no date, give me dates and brackets and we're going to have issues. Yes, activism journalism is 100% a genre. For anyone who does Journ 2 next year, you learn all about activism journalism. It's a whole learning unit. So 100%. In terms of online sources, do we just mention research has shown? Yeah. So you wouldn't just say research has shown, you'd say research by the institute of whoever, because if you're researching it, it should tell you who is doing that research. So the Pew Institute of Research has stated, or Dr. whoever from this university, or, give the names. Because that's what gives credibility to pieces more than anything, guys. The names. It's not you with the medical degree. It's the doctor. It's not you that's the activist. It's them. It's about their voices. You are just the tool. You are the middleman. You'll learn about this in media studies. You are the public sphere. You are the middleman, passing on the knowledge from those in power or those with the information to the everyday man. So you're just the mouthpiece. You're just there to gather the information and share it. Not saying that what you're doing is not important. It's one of the most important things. But it's not about your perspective. It's about the perspective of those involved within the piece. And remember, with both stories, you need headlines. You need to give headlines. Okay. Any other questions for question 2 and 3? This is the time to ask. Can it descriptively be used in hard news? Is it descriptive in terms of using the 5 W's and H, or is it descriptive as in image, say like image creation type, like telling a story? What kind of descriptive do you mean? It's not normally used in hard news pieces, no. That would more be used in a feature. How many of the 5 W's and H do you have present within that descriptive lead? Then that's not for hard news. Yeah, that wouldn't be hard news. That could maybe come further on, because don't forget, with hard news, it's about getting to those facts as quickly as possible. Otherwise, change the piece to a feature. Okay. What other questions, guys? Say, no, I interviewed someone, but I don't quote them in the articles. Don't use. If you interview people, they have to if it's of your two interviews have to be present in your story. There's no point in conducting the interviews if they're not present in your story. Oh, well then, yeah, Taylor, then it's fine. As long as the 2 that you named are there, if it's just for context and all that, then yeah, that's fine. Okay. No, Roxanne, you need to turn that video into a transcript. Because Safer Sign can't pick up the video. Okay, what other questions? Natasha, go for it. How many times are we allowed to submit? As many as you want. It's unlimited submissions. Guy, the transcript will go in question 1.2. Oh, yeah, no, POEs, it's unlimited number of submissions. Oh, I see what you mean. Roxanne, you'll have to then load it into a OneDrive and give me permission, or put it onto a private thing on YouTube and give me the link. Yeah. Yeah, you meaning referencing it or for me to see it? Chantal, going over the word count. I can give you your 10% and that's it. So 60 words and 80 words. So Smita, no, you can submit before the due date. Once you've done the declaration, and the PO, you can, and the POE shows up your side, you can submit whenever you want. So don't add the transcripts as images, but as just Word, just into your Word document, just say they're transcripts and then copy and paste it in. Okay, Roxanne, just message me privately and we'll make it all work. Okay. Yeah, you've got to have it typed out. So that's the evidence that you did it. Okay, other questions? For the interviews, do we have to show proof of the people that we interviewed? No, just proof of the interview being done. So don't forget, Natasha, in your reference list, you reference the people correctly. So it is proof of the person. But the only proof I'm needing, like, I don't need a photo of them or whatever. It's just the transcript. What else, guys, before I move on to the last one? Okay. All right, well, let's move on to question 4 then. I know you guys will be messaging me. Do people answer some questions from Google Forms but didn't add their names? No, that's okay. Must we mention each person we interviewed in the references? Yeah. So the interviews need to be in the reference list. So for any of the interviews that you use content from needs to be in the reference list, because it's content. It has to be referenced. All right. Yes, it does have, the IE one does 100% have the referencing in interview. Yeah, go have a look, because it's all there. So my people who are teachers, would I say their name? Go look at the referencing, guys, Natasha, because then you would just say, yeah, it would be their name, date, and then you give it like a title thing. So you would say teacher at whatever school. Yeah. As long as you follow what the referencing guide says. I can't mark you wrong then. Okay. So let's look at question 4. So congratulations, your training at Gravesend Media has almost come to an end. I'm sure all of you are very excited that journey is coming to an end soon, because it's driving you insane at the moment. Okay. You're fun, and I don't hold that against you. I know it's very overwhelming when it's not your thing. You have finally submitted all the work which you're required to, and your editor is so impressed with your work. Hopefully she will be. She is even more impressed by how you were able to spot a fake news tip-off that was recently given to you by a misleading source. Dodgy person. All right, so all you're doing is you are going to write a discussion. So no intro, conclusion, all that. It's just a discussion for 25 marks. Okay. So we're looking at 400 to 800 words. So we're looking at a page to a page and a half, 8 to 80. Let's say it's a page to 2 pages with formatting and paragraphs and stuff. Okay. So 10 of those marks of the 25 is where you write a discussion in which you distinguish between accurate news and fake news. So you are just clearly stating the difference between the two. So accurate news is this, fake news is this, and just basically identifying the difference between them. Okay, so that is for the 10 marks. Now for the 15 marks, this is what some of you guys were asking about the 2 real life examples. Okay, so in this instance, what you're doing is this is your analysis and your breakdown and your it's not just about the fact that you've said this is a real story, this is a fake story. Okay, so it's include 2 real life examples of how you were able to distinguish between accurate news and fake news. So what you are doing is, what I would recommend doing is do a screenshot of the story, tell me what the story is about, identify the ways that you were able to find out that this was truthful. First of all, an accurate news, talking about your verification process, going and finding other sources, finding stuff to support, looking at the credibility of the website, where you discuss what it means to have a good, accurate story. Then on the other side, the fake news side, then you can do the screenshot of the fake news story. And then you talk about how when you go and research, there aren't other publications buying this. There's other publications telling us it is a fake story, where you go and tell me how you would find out that the story is fake. So it's not just about saying, here's an example of a real story, here's an example of a fake story, done and dusted. It's your discussion about the process and how you were able to determine that the one story is real and truthful and accurate, and the other story is fake and useless. Okay. Does that make sense? So please just discuss those examples. I like to see your understanding. I like to see how your brains are thinking. I like to see that you understand the process, that it's not just plonking information. I'm so glad. Okay. I'm now opening the floor to questions. So question 4 is in-text referencing. This is the only one in the POE that's got in-text referencing. Just putting it out. Okay. So I discussed what the textbook says and then applied it to 2 news stories. Yes. I would, Jen, I would bring in other sources, not only the textbook personally. If you want good marks. Okay. A bit concerned because most fake news articles are taken down quickly, and the rubric says something about more than 2 examples. The brief says here 2 real life examples will be marked based on 2 real life examples. That's what I tell you to do. That's what I go with. I'm not gonna. Yeah. And then in terms of the articles, yes, often the articles are taken down quickly, but the analysis of the other news publications pointing out about the fake stories, like I'm going to say that everyone's all the Photoshop photos. Yes, the original gets taken down, but the analysis by all the other publications, all of those will stand, and there's always an example of the original fake news in those stories. Can you guys hear me now? Am I clear now, guys? Okay, that's bizarre because I didn't move. I was literally in the same place I've been in all evening. How weird. Okay. I found news stories talking about the fake news I've seen on socials. Is that okay to use? Yes, Chantal. Okay, so what I was saying is, for example, what happens with fake news stories? Yes, often the original fake news stories get taken down, but all the analysis from all the other publications calling out the people that did the fake story. So like with Kate Middleton with all the photoshopped pictures. And so all the other publications saying how the photo was faked and how it was dodged and everything. And then how all the other, they found all these other photos. That is what you can use as your example, is the other publications. Yeah, I know Chantal's been driving me insane because I've been trying to mark. References, just one full reference list at the end of your POE, please. And if you do screenshots of your stories, just please make sure that you in-text reference them. You give them a title, image one, example of yada yada with correct in-text referencing. Yeah, you can use social media for fake news. That's not a problem at all. It's media. And it doesn't stipulate that you can't. What other questions, guys? Yeah, if you do screenshots of yes, those still need titles as well. And yes, you will reference them and put them in your reference list. Sorry. No problem, Margaret. I'm glad that I could help. Any other questions, guys? You know that I'm a WhatsApp away, so it's not like tonight is it and that's it done. But if there are any questions you can think of now, ask away. It's a pleasure. I'm glad I can help. All right. And that's everything from my side, guys. I'm sure I'll be chatting to you all probably tomorrow. So I'll chat to you guys soon and have a good evening. Good night, everyone.